everyone. I apologize for my lateness. I was just filling up my water bottle. Welcome! Yes, it is Max a little bit earlier. Welcome, Max. Welcome, Jade. Welcome, Odd. Welcome, anyone viewing anonymously. And I would like you all to welcome Vernon, who will be co-hosting with me today. We're going to be doing a little chill, Homestuck, talkie type thing. Hell yeah. Okay, so let me get if I get my shit flipped around here. Okay, hello?
Hi, do you hear me?
I do hear you. Awesome. Okay, I'm just getting a little bit of echo.
I'm gonna put headphones in.
Okay. But yeah, let me just, the quiet, that might be because I had the desktop audio still lowered from the music, so I just boosted it back up. Next time the docket should be a little bit louder and on the stream side of things. And
alright, so my voice should just be coming through, and so I'm getting used to talking with headsets on like this. Okay, we can make this work.
Yeah, you're coming through clear. Is that better? I think I'm getting good feedback.
And you're not getting any echo from this or anything like that?
Nope, no more echo. Sounds good.
Excellent. Are you excited? I'm excited.
Yeah. Oh, this is gonna be really fun.
Just for like some more context, I have done like my understanding of Homestuck is patchy, but I know just a good chunk of everything. But there's just certain like holes I don't quite get that I go and research. But there's some stuff that like, because me and my girlfriend go and look hard into it, but I'll ask her certain questions and she just doesn't know some certain deep answers. And I was just like, I wonder if Chamomile knows anything. Oh, do you think we could interview her? And we're like, let's try. And we sent it out, and then here we are.
Yeah, cool. So I use they, them pronouns, actually, if you please.
Oh, sorry.
Yep, it's all good. But yeah, no, happy to help, and we've got a nice full chat today. I'm sure you'd be happy to help as well. So what is your story with Homestuck? How did you first learn about it and like learn this, like the story?
Well, I kind of fell in line with like everyone else. Like I saw the fan art on DeviantArt and I'm like, what's this? And then you go and log in to see what MSPA Adventures is, and you're like, well, this can't be it because this is just a kid standing. What? Okay. And then you just like, so then you're like, leave it alone, and you assume that you just got it wrong and maybe it was a game or something. And then years later, I think I got into it late in the game, so it was around 2014 when like after all the fandom was up and down and the Gigapause and everything. Or I think that was just like happening then. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, that's like about the end of the biggest fandom boom. Yeah.
Yeah, and so if I say anything that's just blatantly wrong, please forgive me. Like, but I had a friend visiting from out of town, and we were just talking about stuff that they like, and they're like, I like Homestuck, it's my deep secret. And I was just like, what's that all about? And I'm like, I want to like something that's a deep secret. So I dove into it, and I had no idea it was going to be this crazy thing. So I kind of went in and out of reading it over time. And I think that I'm not alone when I say when I got to the Alpha Kids, I fell off because I didn't grasp all the stuff that led up to that. So I was just kind of really confused. And then so later on, I tried attacking that and kind of like working on it together with my girlfriend. And so we talk about those events and how those all make sense just to get to the end of the timeline. And that's kind of my, background with how I found these. Like,
Okay, cool. So you read pretty much the whole thing, but just over an extended period of time.
Yeah. And just so you'd have to like, backtrack and reacquaint yourself. And just like I'm trying to think of the things that the way that my brain processed it was all kind of weird, and that's why I was so glad that I had Maddie to talk to, because I would be like, how come this? How come this? How come like they can do this, but there's two universes in this? And she'd be like, that's because this is the way the game works. and this is how, and like a bunch of that stuff that I just couldn't trick my brain into thinking until I finally had that foundation. And once that was there, I could start sprinkling in details as to how it all made sense, which is pretty much like, how does the game work, and how do universes get created, and how do you travel between them? And I'm like curious about kind of the like that, you know, you can ask, well, what made this happen? How long did this happen go? How long did this, until all of a sudden you hit a wall, because she Maddie was talking to me about, oh, the Horrorterrors, this and this. I'm like, what are they? And then like we were researching that, and I was just like, oh, so this is like a really top thing, like what's beyond that? And it sounds like it's even ambiguous inside of the series, and I wasn't sure if it was like something that because you're so familiar with it, you were able to pick up some context clues, or if you've done any research as to like what the deep mysteries of that is.
Yeah.
And,
okay.
And I was just gonna say, as long as we're just like throwing topics out there like that, I was wondering like the origin of the game. Obviously, that's just a big question mark, and if there were any details about that, any information about like the green sun and how that kind of like works and plays into things outside of just like the events and everything that kind of went on around it, and just like kind of the big scope of things, and if there's just like things beyond things. And I don't know, you can kind of interpret it how you want, based on what information you kind of have.
Okay, cool. So lots to explore. Is there like a specific point in there that you wanted to start from?
Let's just start with the game. So you're meant to just kind of know it's there, and that's kind of the novelty of it. But is there more to it? Is there like, how does it get there? And is it always been this format? And does it just continue to go? I like the theory of just like, that's just how universes like propagate themselves. Like what's like the bedrock of that guy?
Right. So in terms of where the game comes from, it does seem to kind of self-propagate. This is actually weird. I think we're kind of around there in the reread yesterday, where they went over how a planet. Sorry, I'm like trying to look up pages at the same time. How a planet kind of readies itself for the game, which is is the origin. The game ends up on the planet, and chat, feel free to like hop in with any side comments as well. You know, the planet itself is kind of I suppose it's not too clearly outlined how exactly a planet is chosen to be a part of the game, because in order for the game to exist on the planet, it has to, like, the meteors start hitting with the important information like really early in the planet's history, right? Like the frog temple coming in super early, and then of course after, so I'm trying to remember what the exact wording was that we read during the reread this weekend, because like this is something that like while we were reading yesterday was when it finally clicked for me. Like this, I love how there's always more to learn with this.
Yeah.
But when the exiles are sent back to the dead planet, their end goal is to kind of propagate the planet and prepare it once again to be ready to create another session. And that was kind of what I got out of the reading that we did yesterday.
It's not like the beginning and end of these kind of planets and universe. It's just like a cycle that kind of continues itself on, and kind of a self-fulfilling sort of thing.
Yeah. I'm trying to find the exact page because I want to make sure that I'm getting this right. It would need to be a planet that has sentient enough life to attempt to continue, right? Yeah. Yeah, I think the goal of like the exiles and recreating society is to kind of build up to that sentient life, which is, it was all that exile stuff that what pages did we look at yesterday? If I can just like fast click through those. Where did I write down the numbers? There it is. Let's see, story 14, 30. We got through a lot of pages yesterday. Oh, that's a typo. There. Yeah, and that's interesting kind of in the, specifically when you're talking about Earth and like the Homestuck sessions, because they are, of course, they don't run exactly as a session should, and there's the whole thing with the multiple universes and the time, the hopping over the different worlds and the combining the sessions and all that stuff, and the universes getting destroyed, because then that in itself kind of really disrupts that cycle.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of confused about the cycles, because like it seems kind of like chaos and destruction, like overall. And I'm like, where? And then I start to learn about like the creation and then the creation of new universe, but it looked like it was linear. One creates another, but then started learning about, oh, this is actually looping back in time, like a stable time loop. And if I understand it right, or it just moves forward. And so I'm like, oh, the origin of different universes are from players. So you think that that's who win the game, and that's how it kind of keeps going. But that's like one cycle, and a cycle within that sounds like with the temples and the meteorites and things that's going on within that. And I get so confused with just like what level we're at with like universe, planets, universe created by, and also just hearing you talk about this, just like that I can follow along, really does help a lot too. So thank you for taking your time to do that.
Oh, no problem. But yeah, it is kind of, yeah, because it's like there's that like linear progression of like the alpha trolls to the beta trolls, and then the beta trolls to the beta kids, and the beta kids to the alpha kids. And the way that terminology ended up working out was just within the fandom makes it even more confusing, because it's...
Yeah.
Once the process starts, it sustains itself indefinitely. Yeah, Max. And by the time that this one starts up, enough X factors have cropped up, it can start hopping off the rails, right? What if it's not a stable time loop? That is a good question. Which one are you referring to when you say it? Like the time loop of the creation of the universes? Sorry, I'm continuing to just very quickly scan through these pages and see if I can find the one. I'm starting to think maybe it was in the author commentary. Because we had the author commentary going at the same time. And I'm getting pretty close to the page that we stopped. Yeah, that might have been... and that's where things get mixed up too, right? Because then there's the story, but then I've read like all the commentary in the books, and then there's way back when it was being published. Hussie had like the forum spring where he was answering questions. He had a Tumblr for a while. He was on Twitter for like a hot second. So it's like the information is all over the place. Some of it's dubious.
That's what I was like wondering where this hub is, and where like the fandom is the hub, and you just like cast a line out there and hope that something's been trampled over enough to be able to like float to the surface. Well, here's maybe a little simpler question I could ask that we were wondering. the Beta Kids universe and the SBURB universe, like when they go into the game, is that the same universe or two different ones?
So the SBURB session that they go into is like it is outside of their universe. It is I guess they don't really define what specific space it is, but it's definitely not within their own universe
Okay.
because
So,
mm-hmm.
yeah, because that's what I was wondering. I'm like, okay, the trolls create their universe, and then I'm like, wait, does that mean that their game is within the trolls universe too? I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. So okay, so it is somewhere else, and I'm like, wait, is this kind of like holding it between the universe that they left and their planet that got destroyed before they move on to creating their new one or lose the game? And it's like this temporary place, like, and then I'm like, and I always like frame stuff by like, this is what I kept asking Maddie, like, okay, like if you're on Earth and you just fly up and keep going and keep going and keep going in the universe, like how far will that go and what will you hit all the same stuff that you'd hit in any universe? Because like when you look up in the game, you know how that all like there's the just like eventually you hit just that din of like I I guess my question is every universe exists within the same area separated between the Horrorterrors, correct? It's all the same.
Yeah, that's kind of the implication, is that it's like the Horrorterrors form like the outer ring, and outside of that is kind of like it's like a weird kind of liminal space where time and space are kind of warped and don't follow the rules that we're used to. And if you can successfully navigate that area, then you can theoretically get to other sessions, which is what they did with the meteor during that 3-year journey.
Okay. Yeah, we were just talking about that because I was like trying to prime myself for this meeting to kind of know. Okay. Um, I would also ask questions like outside of like the origin of the game and how would is the game not even like it's kind of like how life is moving on this planet
Mm-hmm.
and something evolves and grows and that creates something else to grow and something else to grow. Is it kind of seen that the game is just one big like one more step in that whole thing, but it does have a history as to the long line of where kind of all the events that brought it into being, so it's kind of a natural occurrence?
Yeah, it's kind of like yeah, the game is seen as it's within Homestuck as like the kind of primary only like mechanism for the creation and destruction of universes. So it's the time frames that it works in are like massive, but it is kind of cyclical in that way. Um,
I'm gonna ask probably like the first question anyone asks about Homestuck, and I don't know if we're allowed to do this because like you're just supposed to like assume that it's just it works. But John opens his mailbox,
mm-hmm,
he's got the game.
mm-hmm,
He ordered the new game, the beta, waiting for it to come.
mm-hmm.
Where was it before the mailbox?
So the betas, the games themselves, were made by QnA, and that is a name you may recognize because QnA is the name of the laboratory that is connected by tunnel to Rose's house.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and Skynet was able to make the game because of the codes that are in the frog temples on Jade's Island. So this is where you get kind of
Oh,
like,
that's how it's manifested into this. Okay.
yeah, so we get like Solix and Aradia working together with the trolls, right? That's where they had, well, they had the 2 frog temples on Alternia, but
Mm-hmm.
they found, Aradia found the codes, and Solix was the one who put it together. So that's, for that particular session, that's where the code came from. But on Earth, it's Skynet.
You just helped me connect so much with that. Okay. Like, cause okay, and I probably have like seen that and been told, and just it never hit my ear right because I didn't know enough things. Okay, so that connects it all the way to the beginning again.
Mm-hmm.
and then it just carries through. Okay, that's like you just took like a bunch of threads that I had that were kind of like fragmented and just tied them together. So now I can wrap my head around that. So this is working.
Okay, good. Awesome.
Could you tell me about the thought behind like the codes and the temples and the things that make everything move? Would you put that on the same plane as like whatever it is that codes how our molecules know how to work, and how close they like laws of like nature, where it's just like it's life itself? Or would you actually be able to pin it to something with more intent? That's why I was wondering like about big ambivalent beings like like the Horrorterrors and stuff. Like, is there something that like is above this that kind of causes this for me to ask again, well, what above that kind of thing?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I guess it's the closest I think we could get to something like that within the comic is just kind of the vague concept of like paradox space itself. Because there's a lot of, you know, talk of like, oh yeah, this is just like, you know, the will of paradox space kind of thing, and especially when it comes to like, you know, the creation of Lord English and his existence, and these kids are stuck in this position where it's like really horrible things need to happen in order for this whole timeline to loop over and complete itself, right? But they're just like, well, it's just the will of paradox space, and then that kind of
yeah, it's such a clever like way of doing it, because a lot of like questions that I had, like, where did this come from, how did this event start, how did this, and then you just realize that you read when it started and you didn't realize it. And okay, so a lot of things that you can ask about when or why eventually just complete themselves in this just perpetual circle.
Yeah, it's time loops all the way down.
Okay, that's a really interesting thing then too. That's a neat mechanism that you can build and put and patch any hole with, by the way, as long as you just kind of go and like touch it end to end. Okay. So I guess by that theory, if we're gonna go with that physics and paradox space, and everything could have existed, I'm like, well, how long has everything existed? And you're like, well, you know, how long is this like radius of a circle or whatever? Like, if it just keeps following itself, you're like, oh wait, this could connect itself to this, to this, to this, to this. Okay, so it's like it always was, just because of the cycle. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, even like within the sessions, the planets themselves have that kind of paradox as well, right? When you get in and the consorts, you know, they all talk like, you know, like this planet has simultaneously been only created upon the kid entering the session, but at the same time has all of the consorts and all of the creatures and all the lands are speaking as if there's this like centuries long histories.
Okay, I'm gonna sit on that for a while, and then like relook at things with that filter, because then all of a sudden stuff makes sense, and then you get the next layer of questions down. One thing I kind of noticed, and this might just be something that's just kind of to keep a theme and everything, but like, you know, the game, and then they talk about the scratch, and the game is ruined, like you do the scratch and it's just like scratching a game disc, and you're like, oh, it's kind of a metaphor, but it's actually going to be a physical thing that happens. But then it's kind of converted to a scratch in a game of pool, and like with just like the felt being where the game is like played on, and just and I was like, I wonder how many times Hussie used that mechanism to kind of like just a lot of like the whole spectrum of what he has to like fit into his story just kind of follows something that's really kind of simple and already established, because like game mechanics, and you kind of follow that, and the more you know about games, the easier it is to understand the beta, and then I know that goes into like pool analogy, and I was wondering what other giant analogies you became aware of that kind of tied everything together, and how deep they actually go, and if it's just a way to make everything relative, or is it everything functions like these ideas function?
That's a good question. Larger patterns in the story. Yeah, there's definitely the felt in the pool suits is kind of a big one. That's actually, I think of all of them, that's the one I'm least informed on. I've read, about how it works, but I'm still not super familiar with pool itself. Let's see. I know that, well, in particular in the earlier acts, there's a lot of patterns of, actually, if I could find this one video, I can link you to, you can watch it later or not at all. It's like an hour long.
No, I'd love to. Yeah, just send that me on Discord, and I've sat down and watched a lot of these videos, just having stuff just like start from the beginning. Tell me how you saw Homestuck, and then they just like buckle in and you just like take the ride. I mean, like it's hard to make it through some of these though. It's so big.
Yeah. Yeah. This is specifically this video. It's more well-known one within fandom, so you may have stumbled into it, but it's by someone named Text Talks, and it's called Computer Science and World Building in Homestuck. And it talks about, because we get like way back in Act 1, like all of the Sylladex shenanigans and all that stuff, that's based off of like the
logic and stuff with programming.
Yeah. And so this, basically the whole thing that this video talks about is describing the ways in which SBURB itself kind of functions within that logic as well. It's very interesting. I will admit I have not watched the whole thing through in quite some time, so I feel it would be best, I think the video would give the best description of its own thesis. But
okay.
Yeah, I think that kind of analogy is something that really pulled me. Bridge. One of the larger themes that always made things make more sense to you is the hero's journey. Yeah, there's definitely lens of the hero's journey for sure. It can be applied. And it's a really interesting lens to look at all of the different character arcs through. In particular, I guess when we're talking character arcs, another pattern that kind of pops up that I'm excited to get to this part of the author commentary, because I'm pretty sure it starts happening on the author commentary for Act 4, where Hussie, like, he talks a little bit more about how, especially for Rose and Dave, but really for kind of all of the kids, the idea that the quest that's presented to them by the game isn't really a quest that they are meant to complete. The quest is for them to subvert it.
Oh.
So, like, Rose gets told to play in the rain, and like her whole quest on her planet to free, I believe it's to free the oceans of the chalk pollution. But rather than learning to play in the rain and be a fanciful little girl, she like just fucks shit up. I love Rose. And talking about Dave in particular and his comparisons, comparing himself to his brother and to John in terms of what is and isn't a hero, and what is a hero supposed to be, what is, even going so far as, what is a man supposed to be. Like, his root involves a lot of that kind of like gendered stereotypes and like processing that sort of things as well. I guess on the topic of gendery stuff, there's a lot of gendery stuff. But yeah, I guess thematic patterns, so you were talking more about things like the felt reference, following the pattern of that. The repeated card suit motif plays a wide variety of roles.
Oh, yeah, that too. And I guess that just like matches just with the idea of games, because they're playing a game, but chess is also a game, cards is a game, pool is a game.
yeah, the chess guys, the little chess guys on the battlefield. Love those little chess guys. Yeah, there's the extended chess analogy. There's, yeah, I'm sure yeah, that's one of those things that's like it's just below the surface. You have to dig that little bit deeper to see what, because I'm sure there's many more hidden ones that I'm not quite.
I was just wondering if you had any like off the top of your head, because once I start seeing them, then you're like, as soon as you recognize that, you're like, oh wait, where else does it show up? And you realize it's kind of like this category where you can actually like, oh, this fits here and it's like this, and this refers to this, and some were just obvious. I'm like, okay, yeah, scratch game, I get it. But then seeing other things, I'm like, oh, this says how these things are all about relevant. It also even like elaborates the roles of the things that are associated with it. So I was just wondering if there's any that you could just be like, oh, this kind of means this. So it doesn't sound like I missed any of the two of the big-ish ones.
Yeah, the one that kind of came to mind first was just the computer science one in particular from that Text Talks video. That was really good.
Do you think that, how much do you think, like, because I never got to really experience this in real time, and I don't know, I haven't researched too much on Hussie in the first place or anything. I like kind of keeping like the author and like the musicians of the music I like kind of obscure, and just like having my own interpretation of it, because I can just like feel it deeper, and it doesn't like, you know, make it more meta and real. But like, do you think when you think about like there was 100% intention with everything he wrote, like he knew about all this, or did you think he got to page whatever and be like, oh, this would be a cool, I know that there's probably obviously stuff you have to form as you go, but the main kind of thing, nothing is just kind of connected out of convenience? Like, do you have like a feel that he knew like the skeletal structure of all this and how it all works, and he just kind of wrote the story of one of the times it went through all of these different cycles? So, and also you can't speak for him, but yeah.
I mean, from a combination of reading like author notes, form like all his own online stuff, and like for sure there's a lot of stuff that he pulled out of his ass, and there's a lot of but there's also like I like to think there's no such thing as a coincidence in Homestuck, because it's what the deeper you get, the more it's like, oh my god, this was so meticulously planned out, even though it, you know, it was, you know, a kind of improvisational storytelling the way he was doing it, right? Like things were just getting posted as fast as he could make them.
Yeah, that's another thing too. You're like, oh, this is kind of, it's like almost the way that it's created, and it's almost like a testament to how all things are created and why and what brings them to be and how they can seem in retrospect. It's like the actual, if you step back, in the way he was creating and writing also resembles certain parts of how the story was, by having like, he's writing this, it's going to be written, and I don't know, maybe I'm like looking too deep, but I'd always try and be like, because that's one of the things that I do in my art a lot, is just like, you can imitate so much from stuff that's already like beautiful and established in nature, and some of the best like mechanics already exist. And I could tell that he would just go and like, well, I didn't invent this idea, this thing was already here and it works so well and it's in everything, it just, and he applies it there. And I remember when I saw that montage of just John's arm sticking everywhere, that blew my mind totally, because I was never quite sure. I'm like, oh, is he just kind of going off the cuff this whole time? I'm like, this was always there, this was, and I didn't know, and you just picture all the different places you were reading, and this was like there the whole time, and you feel like your world is getting reached into back in time because of this. And I was like, oh, well, there's continuity right there, that he had foresight from all the way in the future. I mean, maybe, or he just wrote to a point where that would happen, but like,
yeah,
that's the kind of stuff. Yeah,
the arms in particular, as well as the oil retcons, the oil splashes all over the place, both of those were only added to the website after that update went live. So those.
What does that mean?
So those pages that have like the arm or that have the extra oil, they are those panels were edited and then reposted to include those. So when they were originally posted, that wasn't there.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah, so like for example, there's
Oh my
actually
gosh.
there's
Okay.
there's two publications of the Homestuck books. The first one was with the publisher Topetico in like 2012 and 2013. That only went up to Act 3 and then it kind of petered off. And now we have the Viz Media ones that are coming out on a regular basis. But in the original Topetico publications, the arms are not in any of the panels.
Okay. My jaw is hanging open. Okay. Thanks for that, because that helps my perspective. Like, now I kind of know where I'm looking a bit more. Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give you a break and ask you something a bit easier and something I'm just foggy on. I understand how, unless you have something else you wanted to say about any of that, I just was just like, okay, here's another question I wanted to ask.
I just thought it would be neat to show on stream if I could find. Let's see, are these pages? Because you can see on the website, if you go to story 204. So this page that I've got up on screen right now, this is a retcon arm page, right? You can see it's in the posters over here. If you open image in new tab and look at the URL, it says retcon up at the end of the file name. So that's how you can tell which ones have been edited later and which ones haven't, because all the ones that are have been retconned with either oil or with one of the arms, they've got that extra little retcon extension on the end of the file there.
Sneaky.
Wondering what it was that when you kept calling it oil retcon. Oh yeah, I've been pointing them out during streams as I read them. But yes, that's the oil retcons. There's the arms and the oil splotches. Those are the ones to look out for. But yeah, that was kind of, I just thought it would be fun to kind of point out that little trick to finding which ones are the edits. But yeah, what is your next question?
I kind of understand. I mean, the whole idea of the green sun and what it did and how it moved the story forward, and how, if I understand it right, it brought about it's a huge pinnacle of everything. But I was like, hey, how does that make sense? It came after this and it was created within this. How could it be a thing that's this important? But then paradox space and stable time loops and all that stuff. So I'm just like, okay, that's kind of what that is. I was just wondering if you could tell me about the green sun and its importance moving forward. So, because I'm like, oh, this caused this to happen and it was this big deal, but I want to know that I have my head wrapped around exactly what it's all about.
So yeah, so the creation of the green sun is, of course, that was a primary event of Cascade with the tumor. So the tumor being the two sides of the tumor being Universe A and Universe B, being like the Beta Kids and the Beta Trolls universes, were destroyed to create the green sun. Yeah, Doc Scratch tricked them. They thought they were destroying the green sun but
they were creating it.
Yeah. So yeah, so I think the timeline of things, because see, now I'm confusing myself. Because Doc Scratch also needs the green sun in order to function. But Yeah, all of the first Guardian, because now I'm trying to puzzle out in my head, like, okay, so Doc Scratch needed the green sun in order to function, so did all of the kids, and so there's the funky paradox space time stuff of, like, well, they needed this to function, but it technically existed later, but there could be, like, time stuff where it existed in their universe, but it didn't exist in this one because of the way the paradox space works. And then I'm thinking about, see, now I'm getting into, like, epilogue territory, which I don't know if you have touched.
I haven't gotten that far.
Mm-hmm.
I know that, like, just the vagueness of, like, kind of what happens, but that's one of my weakest points. But if you want to talk, Maddie is listening in too, and she's, like, my go-to for a bunch of stuff that I don't understand, so if you did want to continue, and she could fill me in a bit later to connect some dots, and I might know about what you're going to mention next, but I just thought I'd say that.
Okay, I'll try not to get too thick into the weeds with that, because I'm just thinking, I know part of the epilogues is that because of we see in, like, Act 7, Alt Calliope, like, creates the black hole that starts sucking up the green sun. So the green sun is destroyed, and then in that new universe, Jade no longer has the green sun powers. So that kind of messes with my theory of just weird time things, making it so that the green sun can do time
the green
things.
sun event, I know that there's mechanics in all of it that can bring about it, because that's why it exists. It's implied that it's really rare. Would you say that this is the first time it's ever happened in all the cycles of any of the games, and that's why they're telling the story of, like, Homestuck, and this is this crazy unique thing that happened, or is it just very, very rare?
I don't think it's a unique or a rare thing, just because one of the things that they talk about with regards to the first Guardians is that, like, every planet that's going to play the game has a first Guardian, and those first Guardians need the green sun to be powered.
Green sun. Okay.
So, hi, Maddie.
Let me ask this. This is in regards to, like, those kind of things about what makes the storyline that we follow unique. With, like, Doc Scratch and just the huge cataclysm of tearing apart paradox space, and I know just the vaguest amount of this, and just, like, the actual destroying of space things, like, among the Horrorterrors, these huge things that is just actually destroying stuff between universes. That's, like, bigger than a session. That's bigger than a combination of things. That's, like, if there's a whole bunch of cycles going on throughout the game, this one sounds like one where, like, wait, like, everyone responded and listened to it, and this could have been the end of everything, or it still is going to be. And so is that entirely unique in itself?
So you asking if, like, the specific cycle that the kids go through, if that is, like, a unique cycle for the game?
Hang on 1 second. I gotta ask a question quick. Who's the guy with big? God, my brain was not thinking of that or whatever. Oh, sorry. Like, I was just sitting here trying to think of, like, because I'm thinking of all these other names. All right, Lord English. Duh. So he is pretty unique in the way that his thing is. Would he be a solitary kind of event, because such power and things that could, like, if it happened enough times, it could have destroyed everything that's everything? So would you call that a singularity?
Yes, Lord English is unique to their cycle of sessions. Bringing about the existence and the end of Lord English is, like, a thing specific to their session. Like, a quote unquote normal session, I guess, would be, like, the trolls went through and they, successfully completed the universe frog, except with you know, there was the cancer. But if there wasn't the cancer, then they would have, you know, successfully completed their universe frog. And if they hadn't been interrupted by Jack, they would have gone through the door, and that would be, you know, like, sessions aren't, I think it's kind of implied that, like, a quote-unquote normal, like, SBURB session or successful SBURB session, there's not supposed to be any of the, like, universes crossing over and, like, sessions combining and any of that stuff. It's, like, a pretty isolated, like, everything happens within it itself.
I'm gonna make an analogy, and I'm gonna have you correct it. So I'm gonna say that all of everything that's in the physical anything possible is an empty Walmart.
Okay.
And shelves are kind of like what hold the different items. Different items are going to come and go and be sold, but the structures are going to kind of be there. Is that something that's true for, like, Paradox Space and Horrorterrors? They're like there as everything else is happening, and all the things are integrated and events are unfolding, but they're like a constant because they're everything between everything.
Yeah, I think that works. If the shells are like the Horrorterrors and like the construct of the I think that analogy does make sense. We're talking about the, you know, items as being like the universes themselves coming into being, and then...
Because that's how I was grasping, like, the idea of Jade, like, bringing the planet to, you know, the Alpha Kids session and stuff. You're just like, okay, you're going from one box to another. This should never happen. These should be separated. Usually this comes in and out, but there are crazy things that can make this package fall open and do this. So there's, like, stuff like that happening, and it kind of spills out onto the shelves and spills out into the floor of the Walmart. But what it sounded like was, so if you go and do a scratch or do, like, just big things in your session, it's still contained. But I understood Lord English's, and he was out of his box and he was destroying the shelves and the Walmart itself. And that's why I was like, there's different games and different items all coming and going, but this sounded like it was attacking the structure that held it all together, which is why I was wondering if Lord English was a single thing.
Right. Yeah, so Lord English is attacking, like, the body of Paradox Space itself, but, like, his propagation is specifically happened within these time loops in these games and isn't in, like, all SBURB sessions. But... I got some input from chat. Oh, if I remember correctly, the mechanics of SBURB was one of the few things he had planned out from the start. Yeah, so Hussie did kind of have mechanics of SBURB planned out. I know that he had kind of a vision of, like, Act 7 was another one of those things. But with reference to the game, unless it's, like, the SBURB challenges the kids are given in the game are always meant or made to be subverted. At least from the sessions we see, there's always kind of an element of needing to push back against that. But Doc Scratch, Doc Scratch would be the one who let Lord English out of the box. Yeah.
And let's say they never beat him, and he was just got to be all powerful and go crazy and destroy the entire Walmart till it was rubble. Like, would that be the end of all things?
I think it's implied that it would be. I mean, it's hard to say because of, like, space is, like, infinitely vast, but it is implied it would kind of be the end of many,
I just wanted to
many
make
things.
Sure I, like, had my finger on that. Because if that's the case, then you can start thinking, like, if you go back to our analogy, you're like, but this isn't supposed to happen. Something isn't supposed to come out of its box and break things and change this. But, like, it did happen because a thing made it happen, and a thing made it happen, and a thing made it happen. It's just weird because every other kind of, like, thing that happens is because of something else, and it follows the paradox time loops. And this is actually a kind of linear direction thing. And I'm like, well, everything else that I thought was linear wasn't. So is this just part of another cycle? That's why I was asking, like, could this actually be a kind of a permanent thing? And then that also made me wonder questions like, the same thing man first asked about God, like who created God, who created the Horrorterrors, who created the universe and everything. So if there is an end to this, and maybe there's just an even bigger cycle that we don't know about, but I'm just wanting to make sure that nobody else knew, kind of thing, like if this is just too big of a question.
Yeah, in terms of like whether or not the existence in Lord English and this kind of path of destruction is its own cyclical thing, it's that is a good question. It's kind of within the scope of the story. We can't really tell that because we just hear from this one story, right? Although, I mean, because of course after the epilogues, there's now Homestuck SBURB, which is continuing from there, and that does. The base plot of that does involve some people trying to propagate a new session, so we might get some more information about the mechanics of SBURB from that as well. But I mean, that's still in its infancy, so to speak. It's not too long of a comic yet, so we'll just have to see where it goes.
This is literally why I went to you, because I know you went and you read all these author notes and you just have collected all this knowledge that maybe within it, like, you can create an abstract as like, I think that this universe did this because of it and blah, blah, blah. It just sounds like you're coming up dry too. So, because it's just not there and it's like open, and that's really cool and beautiful. And I love things that are open because you can just like create more and always wonder. I love open-ended stories. I just like, I had to have that like, quench that kind of thirst to know this so I can step away from it and start admiring within that. And I just would ask Maddie like, but what about where does this go, this? And then she's like, I don't know how to answer that question. Like, we got to find someone who does. Okay.
Yeah, happy to help. But yeah, it's just, there's still, as vast as it is, and there's always more to learn, there's still so much that, we can keep asking, and sometimes it's just it.
You want to know? Something big that you don't know that you would like to know, or something you have a theory about?
Oh, I guess I really want to know more about the denizens, because we get like a sense for them within the comic, and kind of the role that they play. We get, how they give the choice, they rule over the land, they, and how they're kind of, it's implied that their kind of consciousness is somewhat interconnected between sessions and different timelines as well. In particular, when we get that, John makes the deal with his denizen to become the only existence of himself in order to save the timeline, right? And that information has to be passed from timeline to timeline to timeline. So I'm just curious. Yeah, they're one of the less elaborated on pieces of the game that I'm really curious to find out more about.
Interesting. When I go back and continue diving, as deep as I can into this, I'm going to keep my ears open for that, just to see if I can snag anything, because the person with the answers who has a question, I'm like, that's a question. So beautiful. Thank you for answering that.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, I'm just gonna go check. Did you bump into optimistic duelist videos in your searches?
Oh, I don't think so, but also I forget the names of things. You should, if you're gonna recommend them, you absolutely should send the link to me, please.
Yeah, optimistic duelist makes really great videos talking about. It's got a video for just about everything under the sun. I think that I get the feeling that he did a denizen video a long time ago. I mean, by a long time ago, I mean like, I don't know, a couple years ago. But
Oh, this is cool. He's got like just a bunch of different titles of just going into just different topics. This is cool.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
right.
like hang out in his YouTube channel for a bit.
Yeah, right now his focus is kind of on like character based videos, whether that's like like the Jade Blood video or like doing a specific series on John. He's got a couple of like aspect ones. But I know way back he did a more focused series on the world. Yes, the Homestuck explained the waking world, lands, consorts, and denizens from 2 years ago. So I might give that one a rewatch after this, because there's probably more to quench my thirst available in that video as well. But yeah, he does really, really good stuff. And you're asking, Maddie, I did see your request for Gamzee things.
Oh yeah, jeez.
Yeah, Gamzee is a lot. Oh, what else is happening in chat? Pointing that God in this of this webcomic is not God in the webcomic. Yes, that's true. Not in the usual way, where if the creator's in the comic like this, they're a comically hapless figure. Mm-hmm. And perhaps that is what God is, a comically hapless figure. Yes. And if I just search here, he's got actually a series of 3 Gamzee videos that again, they were posted over a year ago, so I don't remember if they go over an exact timeline of Gamzee's movements, but they do offer a thread that makes Gamzee kind of make more sense. Specifically through the lens of rage as theater. And it's an interesting, I wonder if he has those in a playlist of themselves, but they're really good ones to watch when it comes to Gamzee's timeline. Oh, hey Gester, welcome. The theater of Dionysus. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Who knows? Definitely sounds helpful because you totally lost track of him. Yeah, he just like he starts off. Okay, let me see if I can just piecemeal this out from my head. He starts out, he's been abandoned by Dear Goat Dad. He's chilling. He's eating pies. Dionysus. Okay, thank you, Max. How did I just... Oh, I'm sorry if I have just committed a horrible offense.
I was having a hard time too.
Yeah, Dionysus. Got it. Yeah, he starts off, okay, he's sitting around, he's eating pies. He enters the game. He does some fighting. Who is he? Is he fighting with anyone in that flash? I think he's not fighting with any. I'm trying to picture. I don't even remember which flash it is, but it's the one where it shows like all of the trolls doing session like things and like fighting underlings. And they get to the meteor, and they're talking to the humans, and then there's something critical happens to set him off. The first big thing I think was when Dave sent him that Insane Clown Posse video, and he was just like, he was like, this is heretical. Am I using the right word? Let me just Google that. Yeah, no, I think that's the right word. Torn apart by Mayonnaise now. You did learn more about that from... Okay, so that... a lot of Greek myth is in Homestuck. That's true. Oh my god. Greek myth, yeah, and Platonic ideals. Platonic idealism, the collective unconscious, in terms of like running theme works and running frameworks within the comic. That's another really big one.
Okay.
Yeah, Platonic ideals. In terms of the game and the Homestuck world itself, kind of functioning more on a logic of a logic of a world of ideas rather than strict physics, which we see especially within like the alchemy system itself. But yeah, that's a really big one. I can't believe that flew over my head. But that, Platonic ideals and collective unconscious, and he kind of talks about that a fair bit in the author notes as well. My phone is yelling. Oh, thank you for the follow, Rice Milk. Appreciate that very much. I have alerts now. There's my little dancing Tavros fellows, who I worked very hard on, and I love them a lot. But yes, thank you very much for the follow, for the clever talking. Well, thank you. Platonic ideals, and there's a lot of like, with reference to Dirk's character in particular, there's a lot of connections that can be made to certain philosophers. That kind of stuff is, they kind of get into it like a little more in like Epilogue's Homestuck Square, just in the kinds of conversations that Dirk even has with other characters. But I have not studied much philosophy, so that's not quite my wheelhouse to address. Tavros' name, for one, is a play on how a U is spelled in Latin, and I think either he or Karkat has the most on-the-nose name related to their signs. Yes. Oh, yeah, of course, the Zodiacs, but that's... Yeah, okay. Right, heresy, Gamzee. Got off my train of thought there. Dave sends Gamzee that video, and he gets very mad because he thinks it's heresy because it's basically his religious beliefs. And about the point where he starts to aid Lord English, I'm a little bit fuzzy on. I think, well, because there's the stop motion part, right? There's a name for it. Caliborn's masterpiece. Where he shows like the fight that he has with the kids. And of course during that fight we see that sucked into what is the exact chain of events? Oh, there's so much happening in you could never forget Caliborn's masterpiece. It's too beautiful. Yeah, it's quite something. It's Arqueus Sprite, Caliborn, and half of Gamzee. They get the pieces are coming together in my head now. Arqueus Sprite, Caliborn, and half of Gamzee are all sucked into the house juju, and then that is sent off into paradox space. So I swear this gets back to Gamzee at some point. They're all sent off into paradox space, and we see that chest again, the red chest with the juju in it. During Act 7, Caliborn finds it after he defeats Yaldabaoth, his denizen. And what he does is he opens that chest, and then what was in the juju, he absorbs it, and then that's how he becomes Lord English. So basically, Gamzee finds out about like the existence of Lord English and all of this stuff happening, and realizes that like literally half of his own god is himself. And then he starts serving Lord English. that I think is, and I think that is the timeline. If anyone has any minor corrections. Because, yeah, Gamzee's is definitely one of the more convoluted characters to kind of map out the exact timeline of when they go where and why. Oh, shit. Lil Cal comes into that somewhere. Oh, Lil Cal... no, it was Lil Cal that was... Shit. No, was it Lil Cal that was holding it, not the Juju? I think it was Lil Cal. That's right. This is like the logical process is happening live right now. Lil Cal is the vessel for those souls, not the Juju, not the house Juju. There's something to... I gotta watch this shit again. You know what? I'm getting this website on screen right now. Yeah, if I can... Because now I'm getting... No, that's not what I wanted to... There we go. Because this timeline is... I believe... It starts... here. See you when a plot point and girl genius all comes together. If you ever stumble on half of Gamzee walking around, you're done. yeah, the souls are in Lil Cal. Because what reminded me of that was Lil Cal is the other one with a very long, confusing timeline because he's technically also a Juju. Oh, you have a link in chat. What is the link? Is this... Vernon, is this helping?
Yeah. I think you're helping Maddie more than anything because she has her head wrapped around Gamzee well better than I do. That's just a big kind of like blurry question mark. So, thanks for answering her about it. I'm just like hanging in for the ride here and wondering if she's gonna like ask any specifics.
Yeah, I'm just trying to refresh myself on the masterpiece here. So we get, so there's Gamzee and Lil Seb and Lil Cal. They're all showing up on the scene. There's the host Juju. It's still there. Oh my god, how did I forget that the kids get trapped in the host Juju? That's like a really crucial plot point. I'm like 3 pages in and I'm already like, oh my god. Gamzee is basically if Dionysus happened in 1986. But yes, the 3 pieces of the soul get trapped in Lil Cal, and then Gamzee has this realization when he looks into Lil Cal's eyes of what's trapped in there and what's the kind of circumstances are, and realizes that a part of him is a part of the god that he has been worshipping for all of these years. Yeah, there's the kids. There they go. And then... that is why he starts serving Lord English.
That's good to know. Okay. I just because he's such a wild card, and at first, like, the first rule I almost like started following was like, oh, it's how could you ask why there's not an answer, but actually to start to get to the beginning of this and why.
Yeah, it took me a hot minute to put the timeline together. There are certainly people who do have degrees in Gamzeeology, but I am but a layman in that particular subject matter. But where's the point where they get sucked into Lil Cal? I'm still trying to find that particular point so I can like see it and Okay, yeah. So Arqueus has showed up. Dirk is using Prince of Heart powers. And then there it is. There is Arqueus, Caliborn, and half of Gamzee being sucked into locale. And then locale just kind of disappears and fades off of the screen, which is not really... Anyway, I'm just going to leave this last panel on screen because I think it's great. Do you know where and when the Gamzee who is with Caliborn on the planet came from? I think that is the Gamzee that showed up at the beginning of his single-player SBURB session. And that Gamzee showed up from... So that was... Right, that planet that they are on, that's Dead Earth C. Right, because it's a single player. So yeah, because they grew up, Caliborn and Calliope, on the defunct Earth C. And then when Caliborn started a single player SBURB session, rather than getting a new planet within the game, a black hole formed and started sucking up the sun, as well as pulling his entire planet into the session rather than making him a new one. So that's still defunct Earthsea. So I think that's the Gamzee that technically raised Caliborn and Calliope and set them up with all their stuff when they were wee baby. Don't know where he went in the time in between. Don't know how he got there, but I know a popular theory is that it was at the end of Collide when we see... Because the last time we see Gamzee within Homestuck itself, he's in the fridge being bounced around where Terzi and Dirk and Dave are fighting the different versions of Spade Slick. And at the end of that battle, right, the Lord English Spade Slick head turns into a black hole and starts sucking up the planet. So the theory is that the black hole leads to the defunct Earth C, and that's how Gamzee got there. That was a long answer to a short question. Roxy banished locale into the void. Oh, right. I probably should have read the text underneath when I was looking at the images, but yes, that is correct. Roxy banished locale into the void. With the hopes of getting rid of him, but oops, Dave. But no, I think I think Gamzee put that version of locale back in Dream Dave's bedroom to give him nightmares. Gamzee did some shit with the kids with the nightmares. That sure was a mystery that nobody knew was a mystery and probably didn't need to be solved, but hot damn did you solve it. Thank you, Max. But yes, that is a lot of Gamzeeology. Yes, Vernon, do you have any more specific questions about that, or just general other questions on your list?
I think that's all of the ones that will help me move forward in understanding. Like, those were a lot of the holes I was falling into. So you patched me up with those, and now I gotta go and dig and create more. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that just kind of stuck out to me that I was like... Oh, I know a question. How come Hussie doesn't get in trouble for using, like, the Betty Crocker logo and stuff in publications? Like, that's what I always wondered.
I think it just qualifies as fair use. Yeah, it's a curious issue, right? Because the Viz Media publications, even, they all use... Max as well. This is too beneath them to notice. Yeah, Homestuck is in a really weird place where it's like, it's got this ginormous following and it's been like huge online for so many years, but for some reason it has still managed to
Stay under
evade,
the
like,
radar.
yeah, like evade the mass media public eye. It's like it's been just on the periphery this whole time, but it's never quite. I like that about it. But
No, that's what makes it just kind of fun and like makes you feel included because you feel part of your world in it. I just remembered one of the biggest things I want to know.
Hit me.
You know when they're flying the ship between the two windows and Hussie is there?
Yeah.
Is Hussie in the universe? What's going on? Like, what part is he playing there with, like, the curtain and everything?
Right. So, Andrew Hussie is, he does exist himself as a character within the comic. So, he is... Actually, where, in terms of where in the universe his office and where he is actually situated, I'm a little rough on that. I kind of have the impression that it's on what's it called? I don't think it's on the Green Moon, because I know it's yeah, I guess his physical location. Now that's another thing. I gotta look that up, because I know that it's like he does have a defined physical location within the comic in his office, right? But yeah, no, Hussie himself. Okay, I'm losing the question within my own thinking in circles in my head. What was the question again?
Just to simplify it, maybe when they're traveling between the two windows, why did they pass Hussie?
Right.
Why is he there? Like, why does it go through that office or that room? Because I was like, is this just to be kind of like funny and it lets him explain things, or is there like a purpose to that? And I don't know if I should make something big of it, or I should just let it be and just be that's how it happened and that's how the two windows were connected and everything. So you see him move them.
Yeah, so that is Hussie as the author kind of setting up the two, because the two windows that they pass between, they are the fourth walls of each of those universes.
The fourth wall.
Yeah,
I
so
really understand that element. I tried to the fourth wall. Like, is it? I don't know. I guess that's my question. How does that work?
So, yeah, I mean, because within Homestuck, with it being all kinds of meta and all that stuff, like, whereas the fourth wall of a story is usually just kind of like a term used to refer to breaking outside.
I'm looking at the camera.
Yeah.
But then it's supposed to be, where the show stops and where you begin. But then they just decided to go into it anyways. And I'm like, that's how... And I'm like, when they do break the fourth wall, where do they end up? And what is that? Is that just... I have no interpretation of that in my head.
So those fourth walls exist as like a physical boundary of that story universe. So when they break through the fourth wall during Cascade and go on the 3-year journey and bust through the other one, that's like they're breaking through that barrier of their universe's story and traveling in between to break into and I, in essence, combine in at the same time the story of the other universe.
That kind of like just explains exactly what they are planning on doing, but it's actually just making it literal at the same time. Okay, thanks. That was just one more thing. I was like, why are you here? I know that you created it, and obviously you can be anywhere because you created it, but just a little bit of why. Okay, I think that was my last question. When I was humming and hawing earlier, I was just like, didn't have one more big one, and that was it. So I think you hit all my topics.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, so that's Hussie's presence as a physical character in the story is another thing that there's certain parts where he pops up. I think the most confusing one for me is when he pops up and he's riding the dragon from the Neverending Story, and then he eviscerates some bullies, and then it goes back to the story. And I'm just like, wait.
Yeah. Because I'm like, oh, well, this is just a big joke. I'm like, but this one seems important. Is this one real? And some are jokes and some aren't. And it's just like, am I taking this too seriously? And I'm like, if I'm not taking it seriously enough, then I'm not taking it seriously enough. And you just like keep, because it's a comedy and you're just like following along. But the moment you ease up, you realize it's bigger than that. And I'd even be like playing or reading it, and I'm like, I wonder if enough of these rules make it so that I, the reader, am inside of the story. Like, not really, but like a way to rope in with like just all the possible like universes and all the possible, like when you talk about the fourth wall, I'm like, am I in there reading about it? And this is just so, and I know that that's just way the hell out there, but that's just how, like, I found myself questioning how this actually works and what he wants us to think.
Well, there is the character of MSPA Reader who makes few appearances, but has the Hiveswap friend sim games and Pester Quest. MSPA Reader is the main character of those. Have you played any of the games associated?
I've only watched you play it a number of times. That's actually, on one of your streams is when I first read MS Paint Reader as a character. I'm like, oh, I think I get what's going on, and I thought that was really fun. But I've never watched a full playthrough of Hiveswap, and so no, I have like very little knowledge of those.
Okay, yeah, because MSPA Reader as a character is like I thought it was a really, really unique way to explore reader-audience relationship. But Hiveswap as well, some of the Skynet stuff was kind of clarified a little bit in Hiveswap, because it's like the setting of Hiveswap. Jude and Joey, the two kids, are actually Grandpa Harley's kids from like the time before he had Jade.
That's, I always wondered, like, I mean, I wasn't going to ask because I'm like, dude, just go and do your research on that because I haven't read any. But I wondered, like, how that tied into the universe. So that actually makes it kind of cool and more alluring for me to get my butt into gear with, like, learning about that.
Yeah, it does. It's connected to Grandpa Harley and Mom Lalonde. There's some lore in there for her as well. She's connected. So we get some information about what she was up to before Rose made a crash landing.
Well, I guess so I don't just hang out and give you dead air. I guess I'll say thank you, and I can't believe this just came about just because on a whim. I'm like, they're not gonna want to do that, so then you did, and what a nice Sunday night, and I'm gonna like have dreams
about yeah, thank you so much for messaging me. This was really, really fun.
Okay, well, I'll tune in and be in the chat for your streams. I'm usually just lurking. You're just really nice background noise while cooking dinner and everything. So thanks for being around, and I love your consistent schedule. So I guess I'll see you in the future.
Yeah, no, I'll see you around. Thanks so much for hanging out. Okay, and last comments in chat. Honorary degree in Gamzeeology comes with a free cod piece. Oh, thank you. I appreciate your blessing me with such a gift. Transformative works. Oh yeah, parody. Yeah, it's in terms of the usage stuff. It's just a lot of factors, but I think it qualifies as fair use. Still in shock that Dante Basco knows about it. Yeah, he just like, he kind of like, he pops in every once in a while and then he pops back out, like with the Voxus Let's Read. Like, he'd been kind of quiet, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, Dante Basco is voice acting in Vox's Let's Read. It's like, whoa. None of the stuff that makes money involves Betty Crocker or the posters on John's wall. Yeah, no, happy to answer questions. You feel bad for all of the bards out there that are forced to wear codpieces. I mean, we see in the mini Strife flash, right, that Mina kind of gets funky with remaking her Thief of Life outfit into all sorts of different combinations. So I like to think that anyone who wouldn't want to wear that would be able to just kind of snap their fingers and do some funky things. But they're forced to start with it. Yeah, no, that sucks until they learn how to do the snapping fingers funky things. Then then that is it did make a fucking great joke in your campaign. Nice, good old Jesus, Tick Maraca. Oh boy, oh boy. Okay, well, thank you all so much for hanging around and offering input. This was a really fun stream, a really good conversation. I enjoyed doing that so much. Yeah, we got, in terms of said regularly scheduled content, we got the next one coming up is this Secret Little Haven. My brain was like, ooh. Yeah, oh goodness, I forgot to ask before you got off mic if you had any project of your own to promote, Vernon, but I do see you are still in chat. If there's anything, I know you have your music projects. If there's any links you want to toss out there, yeah, because that's about other than that about wraps up for today. Yeah, toss them in chat. Talk about your stuff. Woo! Yeah, we got Secret Little Haven should be finishing this week, and this weekend Homestuck reread should be happening. I'm guessing we're gonna get another chapter of Homestuck Squared, so that I will stream if that happens. And yeah, I'll just give you a minute to post linky stuff. Let me open up my little document day. Every Sunday and some days in between. Yeah. Hip streaming over there. That's all you got? Alright, sweet. So, if you would like to hear more from Vernon's lovely voice, those are the 2 links to go through. Okay, well, thank you all so much for hanging out. I hope that y'all had fun. I had a really great time with this. Once again, that is Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. We got Secret Little Haven, followed by lots of Homestuck stuff. We'll keep y'all updated as to whether that's going to be Homestuck Squared or not. It was absolutely my pleasure, Vernon. And thank you so much for hitting me up. This was a really great idea, and it was tons of fun. I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Whatever you may be getting up to, have a lovely evening, if that is your time zone, or a lovely day, depending on where you are. Thanks for hanging out. I hope I will see you all around, and good night.